The diner smelled of burnt coffee and fried onions, the kind of place where the floor was always slightly sticky and the neon sign outside flickered even when it wasn't supposed to. Midnight crowds filled the booths, truckers, students, tired couples chasing cheap comfort food. In the far corner, the pregnant woman sat alone, her coat folded neatly beside her, her posture careful, protective. She had been there nearly 20 minutes. Her fingers rested over her belly in slow, absent-minded circles, feeling the gentle reminder of life inside her. She wasn't impatient. She understood busy nights. When the waiter rushed past again, eyes glued to his phone, she raised her voice just enough to be polite. "Excuse me," she said. "Could I please order some soup?" The waiter stopped so suddenly his chair scraped behind him. He turned, irritation written openly across his face. He looked her up and down, her loose dress, tired eyes, swollen stomach, and scoffed. "Can't you see we're slammed?" he snapped. "You're not the only one here." "I'm sorry," she replied quickly. "I've just been waiting." That was when something shifted in him. His jaw tightened, pride bruised by nothing more than a calm request. He grabbed a nearby glass of water, meaning perhaps to intimidate, to scare her into silence. Instead, he flung it. The water hit her full in the face, cold and sharp, soaking her hair, her shoulders, and cascading down over her belly. Ice clattered onto the floor. For a heartbeat, the entire diner froze. The jukebox hummed awkwardly in the background. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just sat there, drenched, blinking in disbelief as water dripped from her lashes onto the table. Her hands shook as she slowly lowered them to protect her stomach, instinct louder than pride. Laughter broke the silence, his laughter. And in that moment, something far heavier than water spilled into the room. The laughter didn't last long, but the damage had already been done. It echoed too loudly, too sharply, cutting through the silence like broken glass. A few customers gasped. Someone muttered, "What the hell?" Yet no one stood up. No one said a word loud enough to matter. The woman slowly pushed herself out of the booth. Water streamed from the hem of her dress, pooling on the floor beneath her feet. Her cheeks burned, not from the cold, but from the dozens of eyes suddenly fixed on her. She could feel the weight of their stares, curiosity mixed with pity, judgment mixed with relief that it wasn't happening to them. "I didn't mean any trouble," she said quietly. Her voice shook, but she forced it steady. "I just asked for soup." The waiter rolled his eyes and crossed his arms, puffing his chest as if he'd won something. "Then maybe learn some patience," he said loudly. "You people come in here thinking the world owes you something." A middle-aged woman at the counter looked ready to speak, then thought better of it and turned away. The manager hovered behind the register, pretending to wipe a perfectly clean surface. The room was full, yet the pregnant woman had never felt more alone. She swallowed hard and placed both hands over her belly, a protective shield. "I'm pregnant," she said, not as an accusation, but as a fact. "You soaked me." The waiter snorted. "Congratulations," he replied coldly. "Still not my problem." A tremor ran through her. Not fear, but a quiet, cracking anger held tightly in check. She reached into her bag with careful movements, as if sudden motion might shatter what little dignity she had left. Her phone felt heavy in her palm. For a moment, she considered leaving. Disappearing. Letting it go. Instead, she wiped the water from the screen, took a breath, and typed a short message with steady fingers. No explanation. No emotion. Just 5 words sent into the night. When she looked up again, her expression had changed. She returned to her seat, back straight, eyes calm. The diner buzzed awkwardly around her, unaware that something had already been set in motion. The air outside the diner changed first. It started as a faint vibration under the soles of everyone's shoes, barely noticeable, like the city itself was shifting. Then the sound rose, deep and rhythmic, a rolling thunder that made the windows tremble. People in the diner paused mid-bite, mid-conversation, eyes widening. A few heads turned toward the entrance, curiosity sparking into alarm. The pregnant woman stayed seated, her hands still resting over her belly. She didn't look frightened. She looked prepared. The door swung open with a heavy, decisive push. The first motorcycle rolled in like a statement, its engine growling as the rider eased it to a stop. One after another, they followed. Black leather, chrome, bandanas, tattoos, and hardened faces. The din of engines filled the room, drowning out the soft music. The diner's fluorescent lights flickered, casting harsh shadows across the bikes lined up like a wall. The patrons fell silent. The waiter's smile vanished, replaced by a nervous, forced grin. Then, the last bike came in. It wasn't the biggest or the loudest, but when the rider stepped off, the room seemed to shrink around him. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with a presence that didn't demand attention, it simply took it. His jacket was worn, his boots heavy. He walked with a slow, calm confidence that made everyone instinctively step back. He didn't rush to the woman. He didn't shout. He didn't scan the room. He went straight to her. He knelt beside the booth, close enough that she could feel the warmth of his breath. His eyes searched her face, checking her expression, her breathing, her shaking hands. His voice was low and controlled. "Are you okay?" he asked. She nodded, but the nod was weak. She was still wet, still cold, still humiliated. He reached for her coat and gently draped it over her shoulders. His hands were steady, protective, like he was guarding something precious. His eyes flicked to the waiter. The waiter's face had gone pale. The man stood slowly, like a storm rising without warning. He didn't speak immediately. He didn't need to. His posture alone was enough to silence the room. When he finally turned toward the waiter, his voice was quiet, but it carried a weight that made everyone listen. "That," he said, pointing at the woman, "is my wife." The words were simple, but the room felt the meaning behind them, an unspoken warning that this wasn't just a customer dispute. It was personal, and in that moment, the waiter realized his mistake. Not just that he'd been rude, but that he had made the wrong person feel small in front of the wrong crowd. The diner's air was thick with tension, like the calm before a storm. Everyone stared at the waiter, waiting for him to react. His hands trembled slightly at his sides, his eyes darting between the biker and the pregnant woman. He looked like a man who suddenly understood he was no longer in control. The manager, who had been hiding behind the counter, stepped forward with a nervous smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Sir," he said quickly, "we can handle this, please, just." The biker's gaze didn't leave the waiter. He didn't look at the manager. He didn't even blink. His voice was calm, almost gentle, but there was a hard edge to it that made the room go colder. "You humiliated a pregnant woman," he said. "In public." The waiter opened his mouth, then closed it. He swallowed. His jaw clenched. He tried to form a response, but nothing came out. The diner was silent except for the hum of the refrigerators and the soft drip of water still leaking from the woman's dress. The biker continued, "That's not a joke. That's not a prank. That's not something you get to laugh off." The manager finally found his courage, or maybe just his fear. He stepped closer to the waiter. "Hey," he said, "I'm sorry. We don't tolerate that behavior. You're fired." The waiter's face twisted with disbelief. "What? You can't." "Yes, I can," the manager replied. "Get your things." The waiter backed away, eyes wide, as if he expected the biker to physically strike him. The biker didn't move. He simply watched, like a judge delivering a verdict. The waiter stumbled toward the back, and the customers whispered as he disappeared behind the kitchen door. The moment he was gone, the biker turned to the woman again. His expression softened, and for the first time, the room saw the tenderness beneath his tough exterior. "You're safe now," he said. She nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you." He lifted her hand gently and guided her toward the door. The bikers outside waited in a line, engines idling, like a protective fence. As they walked out into the night, the woman glanced back once. She saw phones raised, recording everything. By morning, the video was everywhere, shared on social media, reposted, criticized, praised. People argued in comments about the waiter, the manager, the bikers, the woman. Some called it justice, others called it fear, but the truth was simple. The diner's reputation was ruined. The waiter lost his job, and his dignity. The manager learned that ignoring abuse can cost more than confronting it. And the woman, she rode away behind her husband, the leather jacket warm against her wet shoulders, her head held high. She didn't feel powerful or triumphant. She felt something else, relieved, because the world had finally seen what she already knew. Disrespect can cost you everything.